Forms must be submitted prior to the first person called to speak. Okay? So if you want to speak, let Michelle know. Okay, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Michelle, will you handle the roll call, please?
Miss Hamilton?
Present.
Mrs. Marilyn Acton Dowell?
Present.
Miss Hunt?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Here.
And Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Here. Now we need the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
So moved. Second,
Support.
any discussion about the agenda? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. I'll now turn over to Superintendent Beal for the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Actually, we're going to open up with Julie Baker, and she's going to open us up with the elementary update.
All right, first try. Had it figured out. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. It's been a long day. So we just wrapped up, or quite a little while ago now, our March is Reading Month celebrations, and we had wonderful turnouts for our celebrity readers. Really great events happening in all buildings. And right now, what we're doing is we're really focusing in on our kindergarten roundups. So we have those happening in all of our buildings, our elementary buildings, this week and also next week. We already had Cascades last night, had a nice turnout there. We will have, I believe, Dibble tomorrow, and then the rest of them are next week. Hunt this week as well? Oh, sorry, Hunt. And so really great events, and we hope to see you stop out and check those out. They're interesting because and fun because we do a bike giveaway, but really the point of them is to help students and their parents, gives them a first exposure to school. For some of them, they can get on the bus and check that out. They can see what their classroom is going to look like. They can meet the staff, and it gives them an opportunity to also find out what types of things they need to do to prepare for the fall. This year, we are also seeing quite a few schools getting some of that kindergarten screening done ahead of time, which gives parents good information so that they can choose whether kindergarten or the Young Fives program is the best fit for them. We have a lot of other great things happening in our buildings, field trips to the Potter Center, and some, of course, a lot of M-STEP testing, and that's kind of where we're living right now is M-STEP world. And after that, we'll be doing our NWEA to wrap up the year, but we're excited to see how our kids did. We do have some call-outs, some shout-outs for buildings. For Cascades, we have Joel Landenberger for being a team player. At Dibble, Tammy, Sherry, Matt, and the Taher staff for being the friendliest, most efficient staff around. At Hunt, the March is Reading Month committee. So Sarah Ludwig, Aisha Parker, Amy Gogol, Patty Montgomery, Carol Kostrava, Jacob Jabkowitz, Karen Mitchell, Carly Breeze, and Amanda Beiswanger. At Montessori, Carrie Chapman for being a great custodian. All of their March is Reading Month guest readers. Tanya Kender from the ISD, which I will second that. She is a general education social worker at the ISD and has been so helpful with some of our homeless families and our families that are inadequately housed, just helping us to find great services for them. Chandra Howard is their PTO leader in that building, and she's doing a fantastic job. At Northeast, shout outs to the board trustee, Marilyn Acton Dowell, and to Shalonda Hunt, Superintendent Beal, Assistant Superintendent Baker, Assistant Superintendent Janetti for attending the pause assembly, and that was really cool. That was a neat thing to see provided by the Tigers. At Sharp Park, Kara Burkheader and Maureen Heiler are starting an after-school running club similar to Girls on the Run, but it's free of charge to students. And then Jasmine Isaac from the Teen Pregnancy Prevention at Jackson County Health Department, and she's working with students, high school students, and brings them to Sharp Park for community service and outreach. So that's a great program. At Lewis, to EnviroClean for keeping the building nice and clean. To Karen and Kay from Taher for fun, tasty, festive meals for kids. Bus drivers and monitors for having such an excellent rapport with kids and being timely and efficient. And to all the guests who read during March's Reading Month. And that is what I have for our elementary board report for this evening. Any questions?
Who donated the bike?
Oh, the bikes, I believe, was that, I'm thinking,
Kiwanis?
was that through
Lions.
the Lions? Through the Lions Club.
And
So-
then I was kind of curious about, do all kindergartners get screened, like a kindergarten readiness test before they
Yes.
can come? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's nice because it gives us some beginning information, but also it really does help parents make a decision, you know, if their child really could use that extra time with our Young Fives program, or if they're ready to go right into kindergarten. Thank you.
Awesome. One of my favorite times of year, kindergarten roundup. Lots of folks don't know this. Our count recently was 4872. We are the fastest growing district in Jackson County, and my anticipation is that there's a potential we could break 5,000 next year, which will be a really nice thing. There wasn't too long ago, we were down around 4,400 in our budget. So to see that those kids coming back is a good thing, and to see those, you know, obviously when they come in kindergarten, you know, we hope to keep them not just, you know, for 1 year, but for 13 years. So, Mr. Patterson, you want to share the secondary update?
Absolutely, thank you. I'm doing a little sound check, make sure I'm not too loud, too quiet. So it sounds good so far. All right, let's see, middle school at Parkside and 4th Street Learning Center. You'll hear a reoccurring theme, lots of testing going on. So Parkside has 229 8th graders, and all of them but 12 were present for the initial day of testing. And we ended up finishing with 210 out of 219, or 97% of those students took that test that week. At 4th Street Learning Center, we did a little tour of the building recently with Trustee Hamilton and Marcus Leon. Mrs. Coppin was just ecstatic about the students' participation there. They had 74%, which is 14 and 19 8th graders at 4th Street Learning Center. So pretty strong testing strategies and stamina for those students to take the PSAT and the 8th grade. 7th grade is coming up soon, and 6th graders to follow there. At Parkside, thank you to all of our JPS families that came out to Leap Into Literacy Night. Was Tuesday, April 11th. They had a great evening of food, games, reading, prizes, and more. Shout out to the ELA departments and world language teachers for helping to put this event on. Also, our partnership with the Jackson District Library. They had lots of prizes. The Viking mascot made it out, and every day is a great day to be a Viking when we're celebrating reading for our K-8 students. So that was a big celebration. And forgive me, I missed last month, and I was just so excited to report out. I was sick, but the 6th annual Black History Celebration of Academic Excellence from middle school at Parkside, partnering with the NAACP of Jackson, Jackson College, and JPS. We celebrated 125 families that are, or students that are 3.0 or higher, African American students, also establishing an NAACP Youth Council. And so we had over 20 applicants from Parkside and 20 from the high school that have been participating in the past, and I look forward to partnering with Mrs. Mahoney and having those students take a leadership role within our community. At Jackson High School, I just passed a student and parent. They are preparing for our JHS theater year with Frog and Toad. So that's coming up in our auditorium this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Hope we're able to come out and support the arts. And lots of graduation. So in addition to testing, you'll hear a lot about graduation activities. So baccalaureate, honors night, commencement, project graduation is a primary focus. And I think that's on our board of agenda, so you can see the times and dates there. Also, just a lot of gratitude from Jackson High School. They've had a challenging year. So there's just a lot of thankfulness from their counseling team across the district, Jackson High especially, central office staff and others who just came up to the high school to provide support when support was needed. We had a loss of a student recently, and so supporting our young people, our teachers, and it was one of those where community comes together in their time of need. And so Jackson High School just wanted to say thank you to everyone who did whatever they did to support. Jackson Pathways finished their testing this week with the highest percentage of students testing the SAT since Pathways began. They are working on co-hosting a summer job fair with the Business Tech Department May 3rd. The goal is to set up employment opportunities for our students this upcoming summer. We have 8 students that are doing a summer internship with Michigan Works in the Jackson Violence Task Force. We'll be taking a group of young men to Reduce the Violence Summit Friday, April 21st. So that's this Friday. So lots of community engagement activities. Getting back towards graduation, Pathways had a recovery of 35 credits from the last trimester. So this is students who didn't give up, didn't give in, continue to earn credits towards graduation, in addition to focusing on what they need to do this 3rd trimester. And finally, South Central Michigan virtual also testing, PSAT, SAT, SA, Work Keys, MSTEP, and getting ready to wrap up MSTEP 3 through 8. Graduation coaching, out of the 105 seniors, 49 are on track for graduation, 16 are in range, and of the other, of 65 seniors, 52 of them have 0 to 3 credits remaining, and seniors who have advocated for themselves to get the remainder of their classes open. So they're doing a lot of self-advocacy. At SCMV, they're taking one class at a time, and so some of them need multiple classes opened up, and that's what they're doing to accommodate to increase the percentage of success for our seniors. Let's see. And again, the success coaching is going well. Students are conducting meetings and moving to increase the number of students on track. And I believe this concludes the secondary report for the month of April. If there's any questions, be glad to take them.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Chris, you want to talk about some Believe the Hype?
Of course I do. Good evening, everybody. Just a couple things I wanted to get you interested in that we're doing at Jackson Public Schools. Just a note that we are under a complete revamp of our website. School Wires was bought over by Final Site, and so we are working on a brand new website. It will be obviously not live until it's all done, but it's starting from scratch just because of the buyover. So Lois Dunning is leading that, and there's just lots of work being done on that. We're very excited about it. It'll have a nice new fresh look. Won't change our mass communication of Blackboard, but they'll be all tied together in PowerSchool, a little bit easier too. So we're pretty excited about the new features. That will not roll out until the summer though. So it will take us a few months to get there. So we'll roll that out in the summer and let everybody know when that's coming out. Another thing that we're doing, so in the past we have done our surveys via SurveyMonkey, and while we will not discontinue using that tool, because for surveys where we have a lot of information that we need to get, which will be the next one coming up, In the next few days, you'll see going out to staff and students and families. That's a pretty in-depth one that asks a lot of questions that we're trying to find information about. This is with our partnership with the Michigan Department of Ed and some, key areas that we're trying to find where the barriers and struggles are for families. But we've introduced a new product called Thought Exchange, which I really liked because we are very interested in finding people's voice. And a lot of times a survey is just a series of questions that they answer, but there's no interaction between the people taking the surveys. So Thought Exchange, you kind of centralize yourself on a few questions, one or two, and people are able to comment back and forth and start a discussion that really helps us because it really pulls in some key issues. So we experimented first with the kindergarten roundup. We just kind of wanted to see how it was going. So that was to all JPS families to see what struggles they may have had when they were enrolling in kindergarten. We do a really great job. I'm always so impressed with our elementary principals, the entire elementary staff, for what they do for kindergarten roundups and partnering with all of our community partners. But we thought, what else could we be doing? And so our Thought Exchange provided us with a couple of suggestions, and one that I thought was really neat is that parents new to the district or new to having a student come into kindergarten was they would like a timeline of, what do they need to do when, what do they need to have? So we put that together for our kindergarten roundup so that we could answer those questions. So our next survey, like I said, is a district-wide survey that we do at the end of the year. And then before I get to that, we did then use our Thought Exchange to do a food service survey. We surveyed students and staff and families to find out just how, what could we do to improve our food service. And it's been interesting. It's in the works now. And so we've had a lot of good, funny suggestions, but good suggestions. But overall, I'm pleased with the response from that. So I like this Thought Exchange product. It kind of starts a conversation, I think. So then we will do our overall yearly in the next, I think they go out Wednesday or Thursday of this week. And we will be sending out our yearly survey with quite a few questions from everybody. And then what we're excited about is then we'll take a look at that Survey Monkey and the results and find out what were a couple of key issues that we could hone in on and go Thought Exchange with. And that would be with families and parents and students. So I'm looking forward to using that just so that we can have some more in-depth conversation. I think a lot of times when you answer a survey, you only know what you know, but you're not thinking about some other things. And that's what Thought Exchange does. It brings up other people's ideas. And then you can kind of say, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Here's what I think about that. And so, like I said, we're excited to do this, and it's a great way to get student voice too. So I had about 796 kids respond to the food service survey so far. So, we're working on trying to get that to be a little bit stronger. I just wanted to make sure that we remind you that the ISD special education millage is coming up in a few weeks here, May 2nd. And also one of the things we didn't mention was on 5/19 is Decision Day at Jackson High School from 10 to 11:20. And I just, and if you're out at the Jackson Crossing, don't forget to visit the art show because it's pretty cool. They were on JTV today, so if you get home and you want to catch it, reruns all night long. And finally, I just wanted to put out a big thank you to our community businesses and partners. I sit on the board for the Jackson Chamber, and we have garnered, our picnic comes up at the end of the year, and we're able to ask for donations, and we have received a large amount of money to be able to provide, along with a lot of donated cool products that we'll be able to give giveaways and baskets at the end of the year for our teachers. I really believe our Jackson community comes up to step up and really appreciate all of the staff at JPS and the hard work they do. So I just wanted to make sure I said thank you. And if you are out here and would like to donate something, please don't hesitate to come to me. And that's all I have.
Okay, at this time.
Could I just ask a question? So look at surveys. Could I get a list of the surveys that you send out, or is there a master list of those? What goes out to kids?
Yeah, I can get you a list.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Okay, thanks.
And then one last question, Chris. Who monitors the thought exchange in addition to yourself?
So monitors it. When we are including students, it is monitored by me. When we're including, it comes to me first so that I can see to make sure there isn't anything that we wouldn't want people to talk about. And I don't mean, it's swear words and, kind of some of those things. So that monitors me. Then the results go to cabinet, right? So then we look at it as a whole. So moderating it just simply means that during the discussion while the survey is running, I'm moderating it just to make sure that there aren't any hurtful comments. It is set up to not have those go through, so they come to me first. So, and that's been interesting because even if somebody slightly spells the wrong, like shot wrong, it comes to me. So I get to, just kind of filter those things out. But I'm all about hearing everybody's voice. It's just that we don't want, some things to get through. But it's been really interesting.
And even for those comments that may not be shared explicitly or in a positive manner, do you let the individuals know? Do they still know that their voices were heard?
When I say that they're monitored or moderated, it's things like, my teacher made me do this, right? So it's not contributing to the conversation. I don't mind if the comment is misspelled or it's their thoughts. I don't take those away. It's things like that we're just trying to moderate out of there, right? Like, so that's not really going to further our discussion. But if there was something, I haven't seen anything yet that I need to address somebody, it's anonymous. So I can't go to that person and say, hey, you can't do this. But that's the idea of the moderating, is just to make sure that it's community friendly. It's not to moderate our ideas or thoughts or anything.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Those deliberation, any discussion on this? No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're now ready for citizens to address the board. Again, we can only take your request to speak until our first person speaks. So if you've got one in your hand, you want to get up here, please do it right now.
Pam, is that new? Did we vote on that? I don't remember that. Pam, did we vote on that?
Did you say our Robert's Rules of Order will wait to be addressed by
We
the
haven't
chair?
voted on that either.
Robert's Rules of Order is a board policy. We don't vote on that.
Like I said, we haven't voted on that. So we just creating rules as we go along?
I'm going to announce two names so we keep the people moving and not having to wait for a long period of time. So I'll start with the two, and at the end of one, I'll do the next one, et cetera. First, we have Cheryl Simonetti and then Vanessa Mulnix.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about your agenda item about board norms, which is discussed at the last two board meetings. Personally, I think it's a shame that you have to even have board norms as an agenda item. A fourth grader could write these norms for you if they were asked how you behave in a group setting. It's called adulting. And so I challenge the board to consider what the consequences are for violating the norms. Just like censoring a board member, all it is a slap on the wrist. I think it's unfortunate that you have spent so much of your time and the community's time working on a document that is not going to make a difference. You have a board member who interrupted a presenter last month no less than 8 times and then turned around and said that you couldn't interrupt her. You can't have it both ways. This is no different than insisting on back and forth dialogue when it suits their needs, yet not allowing the superintendent to participate in back and forth dialogue. The superintendent is, by definition of the Michigan Association of School Boards, a member of this board. And that same board member has made it quite clear that they're going to continue doing what they have been doing in the same way that they've been doing it. And even though I believe that these social media posts do not get a whole lot of attention and do not get very much traffic, I also will continue doing what I have been doing in the manner that I have been doing it and call out the behavior. The creation of these board norms is not going to change a thing. The behaviors that you are looking to minimize are not going away. That has been made very clear. I hope that the community realizes that you as a board are powerless against this behavior. And it's the community who voted all of you members in who needs to decide whether or not they want to see this behavior continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Virginia, then we have Nancy Thorpe. Yeah, then Nancy.
Good evening. I took the opportunity today to review some of the data in the academic report that was referenced in the March meeting. As mentioned then, the report numbers are dismal, ranging from an asterisk, which I don't know what that means, and in the low double digits in some cases. The highest I saw, I believe, was the lowest quartile performance, all of which is unacceptable in my opinion. This at a time when we are funding public education at never before seen levels, with increasing tax dollars, at least for the last 3 years, probably longer than that. As a matter of fact, looking at my property tax bill, the ISD as a single entity consumes the majority of my tax bill, exceeding even my local school district funding. Clearly, allocating more money is not the solution. So poor academic performance, poor attendance, sexualizing children, invading student and family privacy by surveys, promoting racial division, all while getting ready to present tonight board norms, behaviors that in the business world are recognized as standard professional behavior. For our sake and the sake of the students, public education must do better. Please stop placing students as pawns in the agenda. All resources of the district should be focused on the singular objective to academically educate our future generation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nancy Thorpe and then Michael Young.
Good evening, Superintendent Beal and members of the board. I'm Nancy Thorpe. I do not live in the JPS district. However, I did have a grandchild who attended Jackson High in 2022. I have been actively engaged with JPS as well as many other schools in Jackson County. I had written Superintendent Beal and all the members of the board considering an agenda item at the March 21st board meeting under item 222388 with regard to board norms. Most of these board norms are simply common courtesy, and shame on you, board members, if you do not already practice common courtesy within this council. Nevertheless, it is number 6 on the list of board norms which prompted my writing and compelled me to speak before this board. Number 6 states, employee, now I believe that's a typo and was meant to be employ a racial equity lens when looking at policies and programs. In response to my letter to the board members, Trustee Hamilton stated, and I quote, "Viewing things at the board table through a racial equity lens, which is vastly different than a racialized lens, allows us to acknowledge how our beginnings have impacted all of communities and the wrongs of our racialized foundation." Seems to me Trustee Hamilton has gone off the rails and assumes her place on the Board of Education is to right the wrongs in our society. Her duty as a board member is not to make us as a society, in her words, good enough as humans to acknowledge her viewpoint. The school board has several duties and responsibilities, and due to time constraints, I will not delve into them. However, I would like to remind each and every board member that your number one priority is to see to it that the children of JPS are afforded the opportunity to receive the best education possible. The children of JPS, all children, red, yellow, black, white, regardless of sex, regardless of size, regardless of social standing, all children enrolled at JPS deserve the members of this board fulfilling their duty they took an oath to uphold, assuring the students receive the best education this school is able to provide. It's that simple. Diversity is not difficult. Be accepting of differences. Inclusion is not difficult. Include everyone. And equity, in my opinion, really has no place in education. Every student is an individual. Every student learns at their own pace. To remove meritocracy and make sure outcomes are the same or equitable, regardless of the knowledge acquired, is ludicrous. Too many taxpayer dollars are spent in this area, which should be spent on education. In closing, if race and changing the wrongs in society are your first priority, perhaps you should step down from your position on this Board of Education and take a position elsewhere, allowing the JPS board to focus the education of the students as the board should. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. At this point, we have Michael Young and then Jan Tornga.
I'm in an uncomfortable position. Is that person going to be able to speak?
Pardon me?
Is that person going to be able to speak? Is that person going to be able to speak?
Why?
Well, because someone has just ran a slip up to the table and made its way up, hasn't it? Yes, I will be. Pam, didn't I just, and everybody in the room, did we just hear you say once the speakers start,
Yes.
and nobody else
You
can
did hear
register?
that. That's exactly what I said.
Okay,
And I do have a hesitance to
enforce that
make an
now.
exception, except that it's the first time and nobody knew it.
That's the point. You don't start, today. Some people have to come in late and stuff. So you don't just start today to, a new policy after the fact.
Isn't that what Miss Keisha Hamilton was just questioning?
I'm sorry, this is not a back and forth time, so you have 5 minutes for your
So it starts now?
public comment.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm reading from the Jackson County Republican Committee, a resolution that they are beginning to pass around Jackson County. It says, whereas Jackson Public School trustee Keisha Hamilton has recently made numerous race-baiting and anti-white statements of a highly offensive nature. I like to say for my own self as a community member, I did not feel race-baited, and I did not feel anti-white statements coming from Keisha Hamilton a few months ago on her social media post. I realized that sometimes we don't like to hear the truth. We want to hear the truth in the way that we want to hear it, not the way the truth that someone's presented, such as Martin Luther King Jr., we didn't like the way that he presented the truth, so he was assassinated. And I'm a pastor, so there's this guy named Jesus who did the same thing. They didn't like the way that he presented his truth, so they hung him up on a cross. It was after he said, you snakes, you hypocrites, you brood of vipers. They didn't like to hear that. So I understand it, and I've said this to Keisha personally, and I've said it to other groups and other people in the community, that sometimes I don't necessarily like the way that Keisha speaks. I don't like what she says. But the underlying truth of what she speaks is why it's so important that I listen to her as a white person. The reason I wanted to talk to that resolution is because I wanted to set that record straight. I didn't appreciate when M Live put Maisha Jones on their front page and showed the entire video as if an angry black woman was representing the people that stood for Keisha, and all white people were standing against Keisha. As a matter of fact, I think it was about 70% of the people that spoke in favor of what Keisha was doing on the board in favor of Keisha. Let's make something clear. This isn't about Keisha. This is about how we are reacting to what Keisha says. That's what it's about. And I know that sometimes my nerve gets nicked. And somebody says, you know what, you're kind of a white, arrogant guy. And I say, no, I'm not. And then I go, okay, maybe I am. That nerve gets nicked every once in a while. And I understand that Keisha may have nicked some nerves in the community. But I think it's important that we speak to this truth of what happened at that board meeting. And I was not intimidated. I was not worried. I was not scared. The worst thing that happened at that board meeting, actually, make sure we can set the record straight, was that I was called the Antichrist. That was the worst thing that happened at that board meeting to me. Nobody else was insulted. Nobody else got screamed at. Nobody else got threatened. Right? So let me get to this. I want to help us move through the weeds of what's going on. There's a pastor friend of mine, her name is Tracy Blackman, United Church of Christ pastor. And she asked the question, how are the children? That's what we have to ask ourselves, how are the children? All children that JPS serves. All children that JPS serves. And if you continue to ask that question, you will get down to some children are not receiving the education that they deserve. Not because of something that you all did, but because we live in a system that for the most part, kind of is on the verge of really not caring. That starts at the state, the way we fund schools, it comes down to local communities, and it comes down to the school boards. And a school would have the responsibility to ask that question, how are the children? All children. Not just the ones that are academically achieving, but the ones who are not academically achieving. How are the children in this community that JPS is serving? That's the question. And we all know that if you look at the data, there are some children who are not getting what they deserve from school districts. It's not just JPS. It's across the state, it's across the country. So how are the children? And is each individual child being honored? Is their humanity being honored? Or just kids that fit some sort of norm? So I leave you with that question. And if I'm setting up goals, if I'm setting up evaluations, and if I'm setting up pay raises, and if I'm setting up goals, and I'm setting all of that stuff up, that's the question I'm asking. How are the children? All children. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We have Jan Tornga and then Gina Hastings.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've lived in the city of Jackson for 2/3 of my life. I graduated from Jackson High. I loved it here then. I am concerned about the number 6, which states, employ through a racially equality lens when looking at policies or programs. How can you sit there as the board and believe that what you are promoting isn't divisive to this school, city, state, and eventually this nation? Jobs, businesses, careers, and the trades are attained by education plus hard work. The best in each field should be hired, promoted, or fired by the previous standards I mentioned. No one is indispensable. Number 11, which states, no surprises, board agendas will continue to dictate topics for discussion. I believe this to be an attempt to take away our First Amendment right of free speech. Do you think the people all over the country are going to put up with this kind of Marxist movement? Not. I'm just like Mark Levin. The end. And plus, I am not a racist white woman.
Thank you very much. Gina?
At the March board meeting, which lasted well over 4 hours, the board discussed what they coined board norms. What are these norms? Well, if you think about a kindergarten teacher spending time with their class of 6-year-olds to give them the ground rules, things like write on your paper, not on your desk, keep your hands to yourself, flush the toilet, be kind to your neighbor, and wait your turn. Basic stuff. But the decision to create these guidelines or norms was the final culmination after a long series of outrageous, unprofessional, non-constructive, and downright dangerous behavior of the past 2 years. I know this because I've attended nearly all of the board meetings over the past 2 years. One of the worst times I experienced was in January, when Keisha Hamilton called her radical out-of-town activists and lied to them about a protest occurring against her. There was no protest. The radicals filled the JPS auditorium and menaced the audience. They were yelling insults, cursing, telling people they could not sit in certain seats, heckling one another, heckling us. One audience member was pushed. Some of these same hecklers have attended since then, weirdly snapping and disrupting. But back to these norms. Keisha looked at the list of norms, basic adult behavior, that fortunately had to be entered into the public record because of her lack of professionalism. And what did she do? Well, she nitpicked and bickered for 2+ hours. She also added an item of her own. She added, employ a racial equity lens when viewing all policies and procedures. Let's talk about DEI. DEI is an expensive distraction. I will unpack that. It's expensive. We all remember Dr. J. Marks, who was really a wonderful man, a warm, gentle man. He was brought to JPS to give sort of a smooth introduction to JPS, to the world of DEI. Well, he makes over $112,000 per year in the Oakland School District. That's a pretty good gig, huh? Is there someone else here who has their own side gig of racial equity consulting? Is that a conflict of interest? Please reject this massive giveaway to Keisha Hamilton. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have William Hastings and then Danita Bentley.
I want to begin tonight by thanking all the teachers and staff at Jackson High for an outstanding job teaching and help prep our kids for adult life. Thankless job is a cliche, but so many go above and beyond in so many ways that thankless job is the only way to describe your service. That is true during ordinary times, but this is not an ordinary time. The last 5 weeks have been a time of heartbreak, grief, and mourning at JPS. We mourn with the staff and students of this school and with the Dulos and Newman families. You are not alone. On to the business of this meeting. This board is voting on new board norms tonight, which must be discussed at this time. 11 norms are up for board behavior are up for a vote, and I'm going to discuss 1 through 5 and 7 through 11 first, then discuss norm 6, which is not a norm at all. We've all heard of the 10 commandments, but these proposed norms are more like the 10 suggestions. They are only being discussed because of the endless turmoil and chaos created by one member of this board. Mrs. Fitzgerald, you are the board president who is pushing for these policies, which, as I said, are non-binding and therefore 100% unenforceable. If you have any doubt about that whatsoever, you only need watch the last 2 hours of the March meeting where Ms. Hamilton furiously contested every word and phrase of the proposed norms. You are asking pretty please be civil and a courteous team player to someone who holds you in personal contempt. Mrs. Fitzgerald, JPS board norms died when friends of Keisha accused the superintendent of this district of raping students, of raping children. And instead of shutting off their mic and escorting them out of this building, they were allowed to finish their remarks and return to their seats. The 10 suggestions under discussion will do absolutely nothing to address the crisis, and it is a crisis on this board. Withdraw them or vote them down. Mr. Dobies, you served 2 terms from Ward 6, my ward, and 2 terms as mayor, presiding over a body with 7 equal votes, kind of like this one. It is inconceivable that you would ever allow a member of city council to flood the zone with supporters who made slanderous and evil statements about you or anyone else at a public meeting or disrupt in other ways. You also hold a high position at the Michigan AFL-CIO, which involves organizing people and resources to get very specific policy goals accomplished. I cannot imagine anyone participating on a committee or group that you served on who would be allowed to not do their job and refuse to speak with other members of the group for any reason when her mic was off. For those of you in attendance tonight, please understand, Keisha Hamilton literally does not speak with the vast majority of members on this board offline when that mic is off. Kind of shocking when you think about it. The 1956 movie, The 10 Commandments, is 220 minutes long, including intermission. The last JPS board meeting was 246 minutes long. 246 minutes. The last 2 hours of that meeting were dominated by a single bitter and combative board member. Almost no actual business was accomplished. Enough is enough. Dump the 10 suggestions and get real for the sake of the district. The board norm that is not a norm but a massive policy shift is number 6, which states, board members will employ a racial equity lens when looking at policies or programs. This would redefine the core mission of this body from JPS Board of Education to JPS Board of DEI. You will enable one person to dominate and filibuster the entire monthly meeting, no holds barred. Forget about 4-hour meetings. 6-hour board meetings will be the new norm. And your job as a board member will become truly hellish. This Norm 6 is a massive gift to Keisha Hamilton, but a poison pill to the rest of the board and district. Do not empower the one person who continually undermines the rest of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Danita Bentley, and then Fred Frexler.
Hello. Back again to say, Donita Bentley, teacher in the district. Back again to say much of what I've already said, and I'll probably keep coming until I start seeing differences and start seeing action. I really like what one of the previous commenters said, how are the children? As somebody who spends every day in a classroom full of children, in a school full of children, to come to these board meetings and hear a lot of the stuff that's detracting from how are the children, it's really disheartening. So I'm here again to challenge the board. What are you doing to make sure the children are okay? What are you doing to make sure that truancy is getting figured out? What are you doing to bring our test scores up? What are you doing to make sure that the mental health, the emotional health of our students is okay? Because in my opinion, most of you are not doing enough. You still need to be asking the hard questions. You still need to be asking, again, it's great to hear the wonderful updates. What are the struggles at each school? What are the hardships? Because until the community actually knows, we can't really change anything. So I ask again, what is our district DEI plan? Because if it's just to train teachers, that's great. It's a place to start. But now you are having teachers who are trained. The only DEI training they've ever had is from the district. You're opening their eyes, and they are now running into district systems that are keeping them from doing the equity work you want them to do. So you're opening their eyes, and they are now running into these systems where they can't serve their students the way they want to because the system is broken, because the system is not falling within DEI. And for somebody who spoke earlier about equity, equity means every student is getting what they need to be successful. Every student. So it's not a waste of time. It's not a waste of money. Are there ways we could do it more equitably? Probably. But if we want our numbers to come up, test numbers, then we have to really, really go after equity. If we want truancy to stop being an issue, we have to go after equity. So again, where is our DEI plan? What's the long-term goal? How are we going to get there? What are the steps to get there? And I think to create that plan, you need local school admin as a part of that plan. You need staff as part of that plan. You need parents. You need students. Everybody needs to have input on what that plan looks like to make sure that everybody's needs are met as best as possible. And something that happens with these kind of plans is they grow and develop as we go through them. So can we decide right now what everything will look like in the end? No, but we need to have steps that we're moving forward to. So what's the next step? What do we think the next step after that is? Do we need to change it as we go? As of right now, I've looked quite a bit. I can't find a full DEI plan. And if there's one that was out there that was created by admin or the board, it's not good. You got to go back and get the input of the people it's affecting every day. So one more thing I want to say is one of our taglines is where community comes together. And in a lot of ways we do that. We don't do it enough. As somebody who sat in a position, my previous position before being a teacher, at community tables where with all the big nonprofits in town that were offering services, partnerships, all kinds of things to the district, and that was not said, yes, please come help us. Yes, we'd love to partner with you. And now I'm working in the district and I see how badly we need it. We are not where community comes together. Like I've said before, we have experts in DEI right in this community. And I agree, Dr. Mark's a great guy. Do we need to pay him? No. We have people right in this community that could have done a great job. We have people right in this community that could help us with trauma-informed training, so all of our teachers can be trauma-informed trained. We have people right in this community that could help us with restorative justice. Because I guarantee you, if we did a better job at restorative justice, truancy would probably go down. Our suspension rates would go down. Test scores would go up. And until we fix some of these big problems, we're butting our head into the same wall over and over and over again. I heard mention at the beginning of the meeting about becoming the biggest district. We need to focus on keeping and caring for the students and staff that we have, because that's part of the problem, is we keep losing people who love this district, but they're not being treated accordingly, so then we're constantly trying to bring in new. And if you only ever care about bringing in new, then you're constantly going to be chasing that number that you want. You need to keep and care for who you have, staff and students. And again, how are the children? They're not great.
Thank you. Okay, after Fred, we have Bella Bibler.
I've been looking at scores of Jackson Public School District compared to the state of Michigan for NAEP, National Assessment of Educational Progress. And a lot of the scores are pretty much like the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan ranks pretty low in the country. We can do better. For the M-STEP scores, Jackson Public School tends to rank quite a bit lower than the state of Michigan for the averages. I think we need to concentrate more on the reading, the writing, the math, the science, and make less of racial issues. A lot of people have spoken about the board norm number 6, a racial equity lens. Racial issues divide, and that seems to be what's happening in our country right now, using race to divide us, not bring us together. Our Declaration of Independence says that all people are created equal. We should treat all people with respect and courtesy. Yes, I notice skin color, but I ignore it, just like I ignore what shoe size you happen to wear. It doesn't matter. Equity means equal outcomes. And this can only be achieved by dumbing down standards. Hiring should be based on merit and character. Awards should be based on merit, not on race. And then one other issue, you're considering buying electric vehicle buses. These haven't worked in other cities. The batteries are too heavy for the chassis, and charging shifts pollution to the generating stations. I think your diesel buses are still the best deal. Don't buy electric vehicle buses. You're going to regret it later on.
Thank you. Bella Bibler, and then Joni Orandello.
And she wants to talk to the issue of truancy.
Hello, I am Bella Bibler, and I go to JPS Montessori. And yeah, sometimes I have to miss school or be late because of doctor's appointments, and I may be feeling not well, sick. And some of the reasons why I have so many doctor's appointments is normal stuff and because I have a heart condition.
And she just wants you guys to know that, the reason why. Thank you.
Thank you, Bella. Is Frida Mason.
Thank you. Joni Orandello, and I live in the Jackson School District. It's hard to really pick which item I want to talk about today. There's so much that has been coming and changing. I will start with the changing of the rule about public comment and having to have your name in before the first person speaks. For me, I work a lot, and it would be very difficult for me to get my name in before the first person speaks. And without having that notice and without there actually being a vote, I don't feel that that rule's fair. And I haven't had the opportunity to actually check the rules, but if I'm remembering correctly, I think the board rule said that you can change the time, but not the rest of the rules, and I am going to be looking into that rule, and I just wanted to bring that up. The other thing I want to talk about is last meeting, when you guys were discussing the board norms, there's a lot of comments today about the board norms, and it's normal to have rules regarding meetings. I'm a facilitator of meetings and a mediator, and I've been doing that for over 10 years now, longer than I've been a lawyer. And every single meeting I go into, I set the ground rules. We call them ground rules. Whether you call them meeting rules, ground rules, board norms. I just saw a news article with East Lansing School having a special meeting to set their board norms, and it was probably more tedious and more controversial than it was with you guys in your meeting. So I'm not sure where the other public commenters are getting their information, but board norms are 100% normal. Controversy regarding board norms is 100% normal. So I don't see that there's an issue with having board norms. I actually think it helps to have a healthy board to have board norms. My concern with the board norms is the way it was conducted. I feel, as someone who does facilitation, that a facilitator would really help you guys. It was hard for me to sit in the audience and not be able to facilitate the meeting because there was interrupting, and it wasn't just by Ms. Hamilton, as some people feel. It was going back and forth. And sometimes when people are doing that, they don't realize that they're doing that. And I'll just give the benefit of the doubt. So a facilitator would be able to set forth ground rules to be able to have that discussion. One thing that I noticed in the agenda today was that the word succinct for the comments was still in there. And I know not just Ms. Hamilton, but other people felt that succinct didn't actually capture what they wanted. I think Ms. Hunt actually said that she wanted to be able to say her full thought, and she worded it slightly differently. So I don't think that captures what the board was saying when they wanted to be able to say their comments. One person said that being a teacher is a thankless job. I think that's unfair to the teachers to say that. I mean, they may not feel as appreciated as they should, as they feel they should, but I don't think it's a thankless job. Seeing students light up, it's a lot. I think a book that I've read recently was Reading for Patrick or Reading to Patrick, and I would recommend everyone read that because it was very inspirational to me. When it comes to the DEI and the racial equity and everything, I am a white person. I've worked in equity and everything since I was in high school at Fort Lauderdale High School. And I would highly recommend that if you feel uncomfortable about any conversation as a person of the white color, sit with that. Ask yourself why. Because even if you have Black friends, brown friends, multicolor friends, if you have people who are of color in your family, that doesn't mean you are excluded from implicit bias. You always need to look inwardly and understand why you may feel a certain way. I do it all the time. My best friend growing up was a Black young lady, and I didn't even realize that I told her something my dad said, and that was her first experience with racism, and I had no clue. And I made her feel bad, and that was eye-opening for me. The last thing I want to talk about is about the superintendent's goals. I feel that goals should be measurable. When I read through those goals, I am unsure on how the board would be able to measure those. Having the student's voice, I brought my daughter up here so you guys can hear her voice, but I don't know how you're going to be able to get the student's voice. I read an article from the former Brian Calley, former lieutenant governor, and he went around and did a listening tour for the state about special education. The first one, collecting data, I think we already get the data summaries. So I think it needs to be more than just collecting data. We need something more. Thank you.
Rita Mason?
Hello, I'm Frida Mason. I work in the city of Jackson, and I also do a lot of community things in Jackson, and I also work in Jackson at DHS. The first thing I'm going to read is something that I found on the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. This is also to show that I am in support of Keisha, and a lot of this kind of reminds me of things that have been going on during the board meetings. This was from Monday, October 18, 2021. It says that partners in public education, several major statewide education organizations, AFT Michigan, Michigan Association of School Boards, Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators, Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals, Michigan Association of Intermediate School Administrators, and Middle Cities Education Association are calling on the public to stand together against angry rhetoric, proactive threats, and harassment of school board members and educators at school board meetings, online and in the local communities. Let's be clear, we support and cherish the right to free speech and individual rights of everyone to engage in local control of our schools. However, that must be done in a civil and constructive way, not only because it's the right thing to do in our society, but it's also the right example to set for our children. Threats and vitriol, often based upon false information, are creating wholly unjustifiable disturbance to everyone's efforts in the education community to promote safe, quality public education for Michigan students. Beyond the pandemic, some have used school boards' public comment periods as an opportunity to voice opposition to honesty in education, including calls to censor educators from our varnished discussion about our history. Educators have an obligation to provide an age-appropriate, fast-paced education that fosters the critical thinking skills to succeed in a complex world. Rather than respectfully raise opinions, behavior has escalated into bullying of public school employees, parents, and unpaid elected officials that only want to accomplish good things for kids. Michiganders have faced adversity and disagreements before, but the common denominator to overcome division has always been and must continue to be the well-being of our youth. We are confident that the mass majority believes as we do in civility and setting a good example for our students, and we call on the majority to be silent, as some use these difficult times to promote division and controversy in our schools and committees. We believe that elected school board members and dedicated educational professionals should be able to serve their communities without the threat of harassment or violence. Civility must return to our public discourse, if not, the ones who suffer are most the students. That was all that you can find online at MASA, which again is the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. My next thing I wanted to talk about during all these discussions is the board norms number 6, to employ a racial equity lens when looking at policies or programs. DEI is important. It really does matter. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is crucial in our community. The state of Michigan, which I work for, DHS, has several committees and offices across the state, and it's just not ours, it's all over the state. This is to ensure that the policy and procedures are written to ensure that these are written with DEI in mind. It is to show how important DEI affects the state. I graduated with my master's degree last year. They also ensure DEI is important in our education. They have discussions and classes about it. In closing, it is important to ensure JPS is following these important aspects of DEI for the sake of our children. To discredit DEI when our own government believes in the importance of DEI would be a disservice to our children at JPS. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more, John Ken, and before everybody says, well, you said we were gonna, start whatever. Absolutely, and that was my intention, but I also want to make sure fairly that people are aware of it, so they know that we can't just take them all the way to the end of the meeting and end up with 20 or 30 and have another lengthy. So, John, please join us.
John King, 203 3rd Street here in the city. The board norms before this board wouldn't be an issue if not for the behavior of Keisha Hamilton. Some of the important ones are assuming positive intent and being respectful. That is something Keisha doesn't often do. She has had her politics at the forefront of everything she does. Her communication skills are clearly deficient, yet I'm sure she will suggest she is an expert communicator. She doesn't appear to understand listening is a part of communication. In an interaction with Superintendent Beal, she tried to push she is an expert in diversity, but when it comes to communicating appropriately or working with diverse groups or individuals, Superintendent Beal's years of effectively doing so makes him far superior in both respects than Keisha. Number 2 on the norms is listening to learn and understand, but with Keisha, if you're not a Black woman or even Black, you're never going to understand. I've witnessed her interactions with other school board members and Superintendent Beal, in which she really has been trying to be impossible to work with. She had enemies picked out before she even joined this board and just added to that list since then. Her contempt for the superintendent and other board members has been made clear. I'll bet everyone here has lost track of how many times Keisha stated, "Don't interrupt me," or mentioned that she was a Black woman. I watched a meeting last year when Cheryl Simonetti asked about having the date of an August meeting moved by a week, 3 or 4 months in advance. Keisha immediately spoke up and stated she was busy that day. The request, that the date of the request, that the meeting would be moved to. She picked her phone up, looking at it, not swiping it to reopen it or swiping it to actually get to her August schedule. Then she set it back down, saying, "Yep, I'm busy." In a meeting back in 2019, in which both Keisha and I were attending with others, in which the group we were both in had infighting largely related to perceived racial issues, with sides divided largely along color lines. The side with Keisha and other Black members were giving grief to a white lady, in which it was mentioned she used her hands when speaking and it was threatening. Shortly after, Keisha commented that she was a Black woman and talked with her hands. An absurd double standard, but by the way Keisha and others' politics works these days, the racial equity lens politics should be avoided. I mentioned some of the people that, using the word sick. Tasha Carter was here, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. She had her grandson speak, so that was cute. But then she proceeded to say her grandson had 5 years of racist history being put on his shoulder. Sarah Allison, the main meeting, I think back in January with her young child, was saying how bad basically saying she's bad because she's white, with her 2-year-old or 1-year-old, and despite the fact that her husband is a Jackson police officer. Keisha's really more of a defund the police type person. Then there's Michael Young, the Antichrist, who, hopefully I get out of here without being assaulted again. And for him to just lie, it's just shameful politics. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Okay, that ends our public comment for tonight. Number 8, our discussion item. The first one is 22-23-106 superintendent goals. And that's me. The first goal for Superintendent Beal is improving student attendance, and it was identified as a district concern and was also scored low on his 2022 evaluation. Jeff will reduce the amount of chronically truant students year over year. Jeff will provide year over year data for percentage of students missing 20 or more days per building for 21-22, 22-23, as well as present a robust set of restorative interventions and their impact on student attendance. This goal will flow into the 2022-23 school year with data that demonstrates continued improvement in the chronic student absenteeism by building. You'll notice that that's a goal and a measurable goal and a follow-up. Number 2, improve opportunities for and building level district decisions influenced by student voice. This was an identified area in Jeff's 2022 evaluation. He will provide a detailed report identifying the number of opportunities for student input and the number of student interactions by building, as well as how those interactions influenced decisions at either or both the building or district level. Again, specific and measurable. Goal number 3, and this I may ask you to talk about a little bit. School Improvement Partnership District. Because we are a school improvement partnership district, we will be participating in school improvement initiatives that are part of that partnership. For the 2022-23 school year, Jeff will be responsible for developing the partnership agreement between Jackson Public Schools, the Jackson Intermediate School District, and the Michigan Department of Education. Upon successful completion of this agreement,
Jeff will budget funding for training and implementation of all identified goals. The partnership agreement identify academic and behavioral goals for each partner building and create a district-wide implementation strategy. This goal will flow into the 2023-24 school year, and by the end of the year, all buildings will report out on both positive behavioral intervention and supports, PBIS, the Michigan Department of Education Multi-Tiered System of Supports, MTSS. By May 2024, all features for Tier 1 school-wide PBIS, TFI for all buildings in the district will show as partially or fully implemented. Oh, I'm sorry, I did miss that bottom part. MTSS. By June 2024, each building will implement the decision-making and tiered delivery system components of the MDE MTSS practice profile with fidelity and integrity and score at a rating 1 or 2 for each item. And we are tackling 1 or 2 components at a time. Now, do you want to talk a minute about the practice profile document?
Those are just the rubrics. So attached in the document here are the rubrics that are used simply to identify the implementation. So when you talk about PBIS, the TFI is that inventory, and the practice profile and JPS profile self-assessment. Those are, again,
Our
if you were,
baseline?
yeah, if you go in, those will be our baseline. So very clearly, we're identified as a CSI school, a comprehensive needs school based on John R. Lewis. Speak to that for just a second, because those scores came from April, a year ago, 2022, which was the first year the school was in business. I say that, not making any excuses, but everybody should understand what that means. The students at John R. Lewis had never taken any standardized test prior to last year. Last year was their first effort, because in 2020, students in 3, 4, 5 participate in the standardized testing. So in 2020, third graders would have been home, not taking the test. In 2021, the students were excused from the test. And in 2022, that test came back into play. And so our 5th graders, the first time they had seen that. It was also based on several other indicators that the building needed. And so there's a lot of work to do. And this, again, talks about the need for not just John R. Lewis, although that is our identified school. The work actually touches every building in Jackson Public Schools. So this is not a small lift. It's not a small bit of work that we're doing. And I think the team spent 2 hours today. Most of the time, the meeting are anywhere from 2 to 4 hours every week on this work. So we're closing in on that partnership agreement, and I'm anticipating that Jeremy and Julie will be prepared to present for the content of the partnership agreement at our May meeting, and then we'll begin the school improvement process centered around that in August at the building level. So.
Okay. This is not a time for a vote, but it is time for discussion. Please put your light on and I will recognize you. Marilyn.
Can you just explain a little bit more about how the first 2 goals would be measurable? I'm kind of confused a little bit.
So if you remember at my evaluation, we have a couple of areas that were identified as of need or lower than highly effective. So the areas of improving student attendance in last year, our number of chronically absent students was significant. And so what we're doing right now is with our attendance coordinator, Milton Barnes, we are developing a series of strategies that will be in place for next year, aiming to look at the reason to break down the barriers and the obstacles for what's keeping students from participating in school, what's keeping students and parents. It's really aimed at a partnership model. So what you will see in that regard as far as measure will be year-over-year data of chronically absent students, those students with 20 or more days, meaning they're missing more than a month of school out of a 10-month school year. And so that will be, we will see an increase in, or a decrease rather, in chronically absent students. And then on improving opportunities for district level decision-making and influence by student voice, this is not one thing that we're going to be doing, but there'll be lots of opportunities. But what we're looking for are ways that we can take that student voice and have that student voice influence decisions either at the building or district level. And that was identified as a deficiency on my 2022 evaluation. So with those two deficiencies in mind, those are the rationales for how that will be in place. And then the board will have an opportunity to take a look at what student voice opportunities and how those student voice interactions influence decisions at the district and building level. So that data specific to what was done and how it was done to improve that indicator. And I could get you the exact language off of my evaluation. Make sure I find it. Oh, let's see here. I apologize. Forgive me, I'm just reading through to make sure I can find the exact language off the evaluation for the highly effective rating. Yes, we could. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So the language in the superintendent's evaluation for highly effective is actively seeks student input, creates methods for students to be actively involved in setting district-wide goals. So that will be the direction that we will be aiming, and the data and information that you will be using. I'll have to present that to you in order for you to include it in my evaluation, and then it'll be up to the board to determine if I have met that criteria or threshold.
So I was wondering, when I took a training with Pam Fitzgerald and Shalanda, they talked about weighing in like 6 months into your goals or something. I was just wondering, maybe we could check back in to evaluate how the progress is going.
I think it would be completely appropriate to take a look at this probably at the beginning of next school year, and so you can then see what we're doing, not just at the beginning, but that way you have an idea before we get to the end of November when we do my evaluation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
I do. I have a question. So I appreciate the attendance being one of the goals, because we do understand that it's not just a chronic issue, it's a crisis. But for me personally, I think I would better understand how this is being measured if part of the robust set of restorative interventions was outlined in this goal. So if those would be the action steps for us to measure what those restorative interventions are.
Yeah, and that's a developmental. I mean, we're in development. So if you ask me, do I have all of those interventions? We simply don't. What we recognize is that we need to create a partnership model to break down the barriers that are keeping parents and students from engaging, or interacting in their education. This is not about truancy. Truancy is when you miss enough days, we send you to the ISD, to the attendance coordinator, and they refer you over to the prosecutor's office, and you could end up in family court. That's not what this is about. This is about how do we reduce when we have so many students missing more than a month of school, and in some cases it's 50% of the building. So when we talk about academic progress and 50% of the building is missing more than a month of school, I don't care how we do this, folks, you're missing a significant portion of what we're asking you to learn. And so It is a crisis in your words. I don't have all of the strategies. I can tell you, we've hired folks, we're meeting to discuss those strategies, to look at what it is, but it's really not something that I don't have, like, if you want me to lay out 5 strategies, I'm just not there today. But to Marilyn's point, we're gonna have to report out on this by, in 6 months, so potentially by the beginning of the school year. And so I don't think it's unreasonable to say, Jeff, what strategies are we using in August? And then when we come back in November for the evaluation, show me the results. And I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
Thank you.
Keisha?
Did you say Milton Barnes is doing something? Milton Barnes, the coach?
Milton Barnes is we hired him to be our attendance no, he's an attendance coordinator district-wide. He started work specifically at Jackson High and South Central Michigan Virtual, but his work is gearing to move district-wide. So most of the work has been done at the high school at this point.
More questions on your goals. So the student goal, student attendance rather, that you have up here. You had this as one of your goals. And I remember in my first year when Libby was requesting student attendance to be one of your goals. At that time, the board was pretty hesitant to make that one of your goals. And now here it is, we have this as a goal. It seemed like last year we might have had this as a goal. I did. Did you get the questions that I sent you? Did you want to go through those, or do you want me to go through them myself?
I have your questions that you sent me this afternoon at 3 o'clock, so I can try to answer to most of them. Otherwise, Ms. Hamilton, I'll be happy to get these back to you prior to probably the end of the week, but more realistically, you would have them so that you could have this information before we needed to vote on my goals next month.
So because we're voting on your goals tonight.
We're not.
Oh, good, perfect, good. So then I'll still ask these questions. I think it's important for the community to know what the questions are. In reviewing these goals, like I said, we've had this issue of our attendance, which is confusing to not only to me, but also to the community as well. On the one hand, we're, almost bursting out the seams with new students coming here. And then on the other hand, we have a severe truancy issue, sometimes up to, it sounds like you just said, up to 50% of a school building. So it'd be interesting if the information that you're sharing, even if you just have to qualify it, it would be interesting if you would at least qualify. We have 4,500 plus students, we're growing like crazy. We might get up to 5,000, and yet we have 50% of a school that is, having attendance issues. It'd just be nice to have that information qualified so that it can be consistent and so it can be better understood. I am concerned though with this student attendance, this truancy goal, which I don't think is a good goal for you to have. But, and we did have somebody in the audience talk about your experience as a superintendent, if nothing else, from the number of years that you've been here, which is accurate. You've been here for about, 8 years, 7, 8 years? Student attendance has been an issue that you've experienced before. So to Sholanda's question that she just asked, as far as what are you doing, what interventions are planned, I would expect you to have some idea about what you're going to do. One, I would expect that you have reviewed what we've done in the past to see what, whether or not these things worked or not. And then based off of that, say, okay, these are the other ways that we're going to intervene so that students could be here. So I'm highly interested in knowing what those interventions are when we come back and we vote on this. I would like to know what you plan to do, how it's different than what we've already done, and where you even got the idea from. A lot of times one thing that should be good about doing is not necessarily reinventing the wheel if we don't have to. There are places that are likely doing, making sure that their students are in school and they're doing it well. And so sometimes when we research that, we can get ideas about, how we can get our students here. But I'm concerned that with this attendance goal, that we're just going to continue to do what we've been doing and get the same results. Again, this is not a new goal for you. You've had this before in the past, since I've been here at least. And so now that it's another goal again, you should have some ideas about the interventions that you did before. So what are you going to do different? And then how are you going to make this sustainable? You know, what makes this sustainable where this is not a goal that we keep having to come to? The other goal that you have, student voice. We had that as one of your goals when I first came here. You had a goal of student voice, and you conducted, I think, once yearly, a forum for the students. I'm concerned about this student voice goal as to how is it different than student government? You know, what's the difference? How is it different than our student paper? So just so we know, I am all about student voice, but how are we doing student voice? If it's simply another, you know, round of conversations with them, you know, we've done that. You know, how do we make sure that this goal is not going to come up again? How is it going to be sustainable? How are we creating something where student voice is sustainable? A suggestion of what we could create would be a student advisory council to the board. We could have a student advisory council that is sitting here with the board each month, where they are having an opportunity to advise us. Again, clearly student government is not getting it. You know, clearly the once yearly, you know, conversations is not getting it. So we definitely need to have something that, again, where this is not coming up as a yearly goal, you know, because how are you making it sustainable? You know what I mean? And then, like, I appreciate the question even that Marilyn had as far as how are these going to, you know, be measured? Because it's not clear that it can be measured. And I appreciate also, Marilyn, that you asked that we have a report within, I think you said 6 months. Then the improvement partnership, I have so many questions about that. CSI for John R. Lewis, what does that mean? What is CSI? You said it, but could you repeat that again?
So we are a CSI school, which means we are a school that reads comprehensive. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I just had it and now my brain. Comprehensive support intervention.
Can you speak into the mic too, Jeff? Is that okay? It's hard for me to hear you down here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. Julie, can you one more time only because my brain is melted? Thank you. And again, that was identified specifically because of test scores from last April, and then a number of pieces that a new school simply didn't have in place. And we're graded on things like the accessibility to a librarian. You know, so there's other pieces besides test scores that simply have to be brought into place within that school system and so, or in that building. And we know that last year was, again, like I said, first year. I make no apologies or excuses for what we need to do. I am and have every confidence that John R. Lewis academics will not be the challenge going forward. But we've got academic challenges across the district, and so we're using this plan much broader than that. So it's not simply while we're identified with John R. Lewis, we're using many of these same systems to guide our school improvement process across the district. So I hope that helps you out.
So this CSI, is it, you said comprehensive support intervention? Is that the I? Is that what that stands for? Improvement. Thank you. So this comprehensive support improvement plan, is this a requirement by the state?
It is.
Okay, so this is a requirement by the state. Okay. Goodness. Some more questions for you. How does this involve our school improvement committee? I'm really concerned because it sounds like it's putting a lot of different people together who are not local. These are state folks, it sounds like, that are, you know, the Jackson ISD, you know, they're not local to JPS itself. Like, how are our students being involved? How are our parents being involved? We're talking about school improvement. I'm sure that, I know for a fact, you know, the issues and things that we have at John R. Lewis as far as the academics, and you just mentioned, which is really disheartening, that we have academic issues across the district, which we know, but still disheartening. But these academic issues, all these things that are going on, without student voice, without parent voice, without bringing them in, if we're just a bunch of people sitting up here talking about the issues, then we're failing our comprehensive support improvement plan. So how are students and parents being included in what this is, this goal that the state requires of us?
So two different things, Ms. Hamilton. First, this is, it is very much driven by our teachers, our administrators, our building instructional coaches, and Lansing, because MD comes down and they assign us a consultant. We do work specifically, as we are required to, with the Jackson County Intermediate School District for supports. This part is not something that's negotiable. This is work that we all have to do. But this is the framework that our district school improvement plan will fall within. And so as we wrap up the process of building out our comprehensive support and improvement, our partnership agreement, next fall, we will be doing building level school improvement and district level school improvement, and those goals will involve parents and teachers in the building, as well as student voice. So that's, again, two separate things, but the answer to your question is that school improvement falls underneath this umbrella.
So, thank you for answering that question. It sounds like you're saying that this goal is not negotiable because the state is requiring it of you. It also sounds like you're saying that, because of the players that are involved, that makes it local, which that's fine. My question is, how are our students and parents being involved in this? And it would be nice to know exactly how they're going to be involved in this. What does that look like? You know what I mean?
That would be
Sorry, one more thing. Even our school improvement committee, which I've been on for the past 3 years since we've had it, we haven't had it. The first year we had one meeting. So to be clear, we had one meeting where I was notified of it, and we've not had one meeting since then. And this is 3 years in that I've been here without a school improvement committee. So what I'm hopeful for is that the school improvement committee will be utilized to support this goal, as well as our students and our parents, as, like I said, with details about how that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. School improvement will take place, as far as those meetings, as far as the district goals and the building level goals, that'll come in place next fall. But you are correct, the district school improvement committee hasn't met. Last year was the first year we were doing MyKIP, which is a whole brand new system out of MD for how we did school improvement. So there was a lot of training, and then before we even get out of last year, now we're into the partnership agreement. And so we've been kind of rolling with this a little bit. And so to say that we've had our feet underneath us, we haven't, self-admittedly so. So, you are accurate, you are correct. Our district committee needs to be meeting again next fall, and you'll be able to monitor and watch how our building level meetings happen as well. So I think you'll be able to see, Ms. Baker, I think you're trying to wave me down.
I would like to speak to this as well. I want to own it. We were doing a transition over to MyKIP and doing the training for it, and it has been a difficult transition. And then we got into COVID. And so this has been, the work that we're actually doing with the state of Michigan is really, really, really good stuff. And we've had an opportunity, it's every school in the district, it's every principal, our coaches, and it's a framework that gives us very large, broad, overarching goals for our district that include things like PBIS. They include building a system of supports that is much more consistent and robust than what we currently have. And what this will do, the work that we're doing, is going to really point us in the right direction. We've had a chance to do a comprehensive needs assessment. We're looking at all kinds of different data. And we've worked on, we've tweaked our surveys and then have talked about how we're going to make those more robust so that we gather the same information every year, but then we use the thought exchange to dig deeper into things with students and parents and others. So lots of great planning going on that sets us up to be the best that we've ever been in school improvement and district improvement. We've got this big overarching umbrella that we're designing, and that kind of gives a framework for the buildings to come up with the activities and the strategies that they're going to use to meet those goals. And so it's been a lot of training in some ways for us. The support from the ISD has been very helpful, and they are going to assist us as we move in from the partnership agreement implementation to the school improvement and district improvement process. And we're really looking forward to their partnership with that.
Thank you, Julie. Derek?
I'm sorry, I wasn't done with my questions.
No. And actually, if you don't mind, Pam, I just couple more things real quick. Julie, thank you for that, but, and I'm anticipating that you and Jeremy will be able to present broader on that. But Keisha, to your point, and you are 100% accurate in this, I have no issues or no concerns with that we need parent involvement, that we need student involvement, and that our staff need to take ownership over the school improvement process. I'm anticipating you will see that by next August. And then again, what you'll be able to see prior to my evaluation is how we're progressing along those goals. But we know that the required pieces, the MTSS, the PBIS, those right there, we've already set very specific goals to. But as far as school improvement plan stuff, that will happen again at the building level and the district level next fall. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. The last thing, and Julie, you can answer this in just a minute. The MCAP, I would just want to understand what that is. You said you all got, I think you said MCAP? MCAP, is that what you were saying? MCAP, what were you saying? MyCap, what is that? What is it? Yep.
It is it's a framework. It's the online app that we enter all of our school improvement pieces in, but it's not just a new application. It's also a mind shift, or it really is a mind shift, because it took it from being very building based, where the plans moved from the buildings up into the district, and it's moved it from the district level down into the buildings. So it's a major shift for how we do this work.
And this is new. You said this is what the state is teaching, training you all on?
Yeah.
Thank you. So just Jeff, when you come back, I would like to know, again, like I said, how are these things going to be sustainable? Specifically, student voice, and I'm proposing a student advisory council that is not pulled from student government. We need something that's different. Or if it is pulled from student government, it's not only pulled from student government, that advises, you know what, it'd be nice if we had one that's advising admin, teachers, and the board, but we need a student advisory council that's different than what we currently have. And then I am concerned as well that we see no DEI in your goals, nothing that speaks directly to how you are continuing to sustain that work. Thank you.
Derek?
I'd share some of Trustee Hamilton's comments about maybe including some DEI. I'm new here, so I'm digging a little bit into some of the past work that JPS has done around reviewing the 2019 audit and some of the subsequent work since that time. Would support these goals, provided that they have some more metrics. Raise my hand to actually ask a question. I know I'm on the Finance and Facilities Committee. Who's on the School Improvement Committee, and is there a chair of that committee, I guess?
I don't think we've, to be fair, I don't know who's put in for that. We typically ask for folks to email. I know that Keisha has been part of it in the past. Might be. Thank you, Michelle. Keisha, Shalonda, Angela represent the board in that capacity.
Is there a chair of the committee?
It's a district committee. It's Jeremy's committee, not a board committee.
Okay. But it's appointed by the board, by the president?
No, it is in such that what we do is in the January meeting, when we're kind of talking about committee assignments, that district committee has always had board representation or board members sit in on that committee that then come back and share out what we're doing as a district. So it's that level of interaction. But no, that's how members get on that committee. Did that answer your question?
They're appointed by the president at the beginning of the.
And typically, all we do is people email us and say, "This is what I'd like to do."
Yeah.
So as long as we have no more than 3, we're pretty good to go.
My question though is who calls that committee?
Jeremy and Julie.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Okay, let's move on to our JCISD preliminary budget. Jeff?
So every year, By law, we are required to adopt the, I shouldn't say we are required to adopt, we are required to vote to approve or disapprove of the ISD's budget by and no later than June 1st. So it gives us a very limited window since the ISD is developing their budget for next year in the same timelines that we are ours. So what you have in front of you is a copy of the budget sent over from the ISD. Typically, we have them join us prior to the vote. So realistically, all I'm asking for at this time is for you to take a look at it, dig into it. If there are questions that you have on it, reach out to Marcus. He will do his best to help decipher that. And then if you have questions that you would like the ISD to be able to answer, if you can get those to us, I will try to have representatives from the intermediate school district here to present and answer questions at our May meeting so that we're able to fulfill that obligation prior to June 1. So I'm not asking or really even anticipating that anybody's going to say, well, I'd like to know about this specific line item. I certainly wouldn't have that information because it's not our budget, but knowing what I'm looking for, take a look at it, dig into it. If you got questions, send them my way. Marcus will try to answer them and or we will get those questions to the ISD so that when they come, if you have questions, when they come, they are prepared to answer those questions for you. So no actions at this time.
Derek, do you have another question? No. Okay.
All right, so as you may remember, back in the fall, we were awarded an award from the EPA for their electrification bus rebate program to convert up to 21 of our diesel buses. We put out an RFP in conjunction with our energy advisors at Guaranteed Clean Energy. We received those and reviewed them with GCE. We've had several types of proposals for just equipment or full service proposals. We discussed these at our March Finance and Facilities meeting, as well as last month we brought a summary to the board. At this time or since then, we've gone through and received a formal contract from Highland Electric, which we've vetted internally along with our district attorney and partners at GCE to come up with an equitable contract for both sides with Highland Electric to provide an all-inclusive electric bus program, which includes equipment, buses, design engineering, construction, site work, along with fleet management services over a long-term period. So the contract has been prepared and is part of the board packet. At this time, we would look to approve the contract with Highland Electric to move forward.
I have a motion.
So
to-
moved.
Second?
Support.
Then let's talk about this. Any discussion on the buses and the contract for the buses? Okay, all those, oh, Derek.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone this to May 16th. The contract that I got, and granted, we did discuss this in our finance and facilities meeting. It was as just an agenda item. The full contract is 38 pages. We got kind of the proposal from Highland Electric previously. Potentially this full 38-page contract was provided at last month's meeting, but my understanding is that it was here Monday, maybe. And at least what I'm looking at, some of the highlighted things are still maybe left to be filled in. And I haven't had a chance to review the whole contract. I'm not sure if that gets into any conflicts with the purchase.
Marilyn supported it.
My motion
Okay.
would be to postpone to a date certain of May 16th.
Support.
now we're.
You want an amendment to the motion?
He's made a motion to amend it, or move it back to a discussion item until next month. Marilyn has seconded it. So.
Did you second the postponement? Okay.
I did.
Okay. All those in favor of postponing it until next month?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, looks like the motion passes to postpone until May 16th. Okay, the next one, 22-23-109, smart boards. Marcus?
All right, JPS is looking to purchase smart boards for multiple classrooms in multiple buildings. This is something that we piloted in a few classrooms, I believe at Northeast Elementary. These have already been approved through MDE through our Title I grant as an allowable expense and will be funded by that grant. So at this time, we would recommend approving the quote from CDWG in the amount of $102,900 for 42 smart boards that will be installed at 4 buildings: Hunt, Northeast, Montessori, and Cascades.
Move approval of the purchase, Madam President.
Okay, support. Thank you. Deliberation?
Can you just tell me what a smart board is?
It is an interactive, it's almost like taking a touch screen or a tablet and putting it right up on the wall, but huge. And so what's neat about it is that kids can interact with the in a big way. It's like putting virtual manipulatives up on the wall. And so they can solve problems on the board, they can move things around, the teacher can do the same. It can be used in a lot of different ways, but it's an interactive surface.
What were the schools again? The 4?
Northeast, Montessori, Hunt, and Cascades.
Hunt and Cascades. Another question for you. Not you, maybe you, I don't know. So those classes, schools. So who have them? We said we have, some people already have them, some schools already have them? Buildings, rather?
I believe there's a few at Northeast already.
So
And Hunt.
Northeast and Hunt. Northeast is getting more, Hunt's getting more, and Montessori and Cascade are getting some. Is the plan to have them at all the buildings eventually?
It's possible, so that would be, if the buildings want them, if they want to use their title funds to purchase them, that'll be a building level decision.
Okay. Do they get trained on these? Do the teachers get trained and the students get trained?
Yes, they work on making sure that they know how to use them. That's a wonderful thing that Scott and John are able to do for us as our tech.
Is that
people.
who they reach out to, Scott and John, for training if they need it?
Definitely, and then if they can't help, then they will find somebody who can. So they're really helpful in teaching us how to use educational technology in the rooms.
Thank you.
Okay, time to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. K-5, English Language Arts Curriculum. Marcus?
ESSER 3 has funding included in it for curriculum updates throughout the district. The district has been piloting the open court K-5 ELA curriculum. We received quotes that were presented to the Finance Committee meeting at our April meeting. You have the cost listed per building for a total amount of $856,642. We expect to receive these orders over the summer, so we will be able to start the new school year with this new curriculum and implement it. This purchase is funded and been approved through the ESSER 3 grant that we've been talking about for quite some time now. So at this time, we would recommend approval of this K-5 curriculum as presented.
Move approval of the purchases for discussion.
Support.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this one?
Yes, I have lots of questions. Are we changing the curriculum? Is this new or?
These are the curriculum, we focus on the Michigan standards, so the standards are the same, but this is a new resource for us to use. We have been using Reading Street. I believe it's been at least 10 years since the last adoption. It is now out of print, and the online platform is no longer available, so it's not a viable resource for us anymore.
Okay, So not a new well, it is a new curriculum, but it's new only because the other one is that, am I
It's,
understanding
yeah,
that right?
it's so old that it's out of print and we don't have online resources for it anymore.
Thank you. How often do we review or have these curriculum conversations?
We usually do an adoption. We're on a cycle. We're supposed to be on a cycle, but with COVID and everything, we are knocked off of it. So we should have replaced this a while ago. We usually do every 5 or 6 years.
So we won't see this again for another 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, and actually, I mean, we actually could do, we could be with this resource for longer than that. So, because we've, it is a brand new resource this year. It'll be new as of 2023.
And we said, sorry, and if I'm reading correctly on our agenda paper or somewhere I read it, that this was piloted in some classes?
Yes. Yep, we piloted, we've actually been piloting for almost 2 years. We looked at 2 others. We went through and we looked at a variety of different curriculums or programs and selected 2. We did a Calkins units of study and, no, I'm sorry, Fountas and Pinnell reading, and then we did My View last year. And we were just not satisfied with it and decided that it was worth the time to go out and find something that we thought would do much more for our students, especially to deal with learning loss. That we wanted something that really hit hard on the foundational skills because that's where our kids are struggling. And so this year we did Wonders was one, and then we also did this open court reading, and we're just really, really impressed with that foundational piece, which is, it will help to build those pieces in for students that missed that because of the pandemic, and will get us off to a strong start for our students in phonics and phonemic awareness. We were just really impressed with it.
Were these reviewed with cultural relevancy in mind?
We did actually. That was one of the things we were looking at. It was on our matrix as we considered each curriculum was how culturally relevant it was. And then also, is there literature where students can see themselves in the stories? And then does it take into consideration cultural bias? And we felt that this did a great job, even down to the cards, the cue cards for letters. Instead of for the letter C, having it say cat, it took into consideration that that's only in English. And we'll be working with students who are coming from English as a second language background. So their cat may be gato, so that doesn't match, that doesn't help. So they use sounds. So they use the picture of a camera clicking because that's a C sound that we can all, whatever language you speak, that one works. So they've done everything that they can think of to try to remove that cultural bias.
Awesome. That's super awesome. So I do have some more questions, and I'm proposing that we push this back till June. With us not looking at curriculum since the general cycle for looking at curriculum is 5 to 6 years, meaning that we won't see this again potentially for 5 to 6 years. I would like us to push this back till June. I would love to hear from the teachers who piloted this program.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hopeful that there were some very experienced teachers who were using it and maybe some teachers who were less experienced using it. I would love to hear from the students, who had this program piloted in their classrooms. I would love to hear from parents who had this program piloted with their students, how accessible or how easy it was to be able to support their student at home with this curriculum. It'd be nice to see the curriculum. I would love to see what it looks like. With us, being introduced to this tonight as an action item, not having any of this information, with this being a decision that will last for at least 5 or 6 years, I think we need more information on the whole thing as well. Even the different ones that you reviewed, what you reviewed before. You said I think you said Sonneborn or something, Wilson or somebody. You reviewed them. It'd be nice to just kind of understand why this one rose to the top and just to see it, especially since this is happening, this is only coming up every 5 years. So I make a motion that we postpone this one until June, just so that we can have more information. Maybe you can get us a presentation in May, or however soon you think you can get it to us, that just allows us as the board to be able to look at this more thoroughly, because our students, our parents, we need to know what they're thinking. We need to know what the
There's a
parents are
motion on the
thinking.
table. It
Yep,
needs to be put to
and I can
rest.
make another one, just like Derek just did. I can make another motion on the table to say that we push this back till June so that we could have more information on
Okay,
this.
so you're making a motion?
Support.
Support? Shalanda, support? Any discussion?
Did you say June?
June and actually, you know, I would love to hear Julie Baker say, you know, if that's a sufficient time for you, but enough time for you to get a presentation together.
My concern is if we do this, we will not have materials for next year.
Yeah,
So my concern is that, and thank you for that, Julie. My concern with that is that, again, we're not looking at this for another 5 or 6 years. You know, and I think it's unfair to rush something through on the board and on our parents and students and children that the board has not had opportunity, or that parents have not had an opportunity to weigh in on, and students and teachers as well.
So very quickly, I apologize. This hasn't been rushed through. This has been a pilot for over 2 years. The educational experts throughout our district have weighed in on this. We've taken a significant amount of time with our staff and students. I recognize you would like to see some information. It would not be the superintendent's recommendation to delay, because these are purchases associated not just with our ESSER 3 grant, which we are required to spend a portion of that on curriculum and learning loss, and that is specific to this. I appreciate what you're asking. I would not recommend until June. I think it would be something for you to say, or a reasonable expectation for Julie and Jeremy to potentially make this purchase in May. But if we want to have this curriculum, I think that we're going to be hard pressed to move forward. And remember that the curriculum that we have in place is defunct. It is no longer supported and no longer in print. So we have simply a different issue with this than we did with the bus contract. And I respect what you're saying, Ms. Hamilton. I'm just simply saying it would not be the recommendation to wait until June.
My concern with that,
Excuse me.
my concern with
you were
that
not
is that we
recognized.
haven't
You were
we
not
haven't seen it. We didn't know
recognized.
about it for 2 years.
You were not
Without us
recognized.
knowing about it for 2 years, it's kind of unfair to spring this on us. So I would like for us to wait those 2 months.
My comment on it, having done curriculum forever, okay, is that it's the board's responsibility to fund programs brought by the experts in the field. Not only has this been piloted for 2 years, but it's not like we went out to seek a new one out. The one we're using is gone. Can't do that. So this was by experts in the district, vetted, decided upon, piloted, and having been in charge of curriculum for many, many years, we can't wait even another month to order these things. There's no way in the world I would expect people to put together some presentation for something that's been in place, not only for 2 years, but it's already been gone through by the people who have the responsibility to choose it. That is not the board's purview to choose the curriculum. It is to pay for it and make sure it's where it needs to be financially. That is not in our purview. Derek?
Thank you, Madam President. My questions, speaking to the motion to postpone, would be, I guess, in the opinion of the superintendent or Julie and Marcus, about the final line here. Spoke to orders are expected to receive over summer in order to implement at the beginning of the 23-24 school year. What is the latest that we could order this stuff?
I would need to get with our rep, but my understanding is that this is, because it speaks so strongly to the science of reading, it has been adopted statewide in several states, and so we need to get our order in if we expect to get any materials. So this was not something that was selected hastily. Our very best are in each building. Every one of our instructional specialists, our coaches, literacy coaches, were at work on this. We had multiple teachers in each grade.
that piloted this. We looked at it very, very carefully, and we weren't satisfied the first time around, so we went back until we found something we were satisfied with. I trust their judgment. I trust the judgment of the teachers who delivered this curriculum and piloted it, and I think it would be a great disservice to the students and to the teachers to not have these materials in place for them to start the next school year.
Thank you. Jeff?
Well, I think two things, Ms. Baker. You are, at the moment, attempting to reserve professional development for our staff, either the very first day back or the second day back. And right now we are waiting to see which of those days is available for this professional development. We talk a lot about teacher voice. We talk a lot about making certain that they have the ability. Again, a group of professionals has weighed in on this. They've made their recommendation to the Board of Education. I think it would be a disservice to the work that they've put in for us not to honor and recognize their expertise in the field. So again, it's a recommendation, Superintendent, that I would not delay this purchase. I don't think it's appropriate, nor do I think it's timely to do so.
Okay, we have a, oh, go ahead.
Are we within any parameters of accessing these ESSER funds? Does that play a role in this decision?
No, we are required to expend the ESSER funds by next June of 2024. So funding-wise, we're fine.
Thank you.
Angela?
I also think it's such a disservice to the staff that's worked on this. And personally, I have a 5th grader myself, and I would love for him to have these materials by the start of the year instead of this out-of-date stuff, along with all the other children that are waiting on this. So I definitely think we should get this voted and ordered.
To conclude my comment on this, there is absolutely no benefit to going through all this work, choosing one, piloting the program, having it be fantastic, everybody's all excited about it. States across the country are adopting this particular one. And for us at the 11th hour to say, wait, let's look at other things and decide, who's going to decide? That is not the board's purview to decide which curriculum is to pay for it, put a budget on it. Okay, I'd like to call for a motion on the vote to delay. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Marilyn, go ahead.
Actually, all I wanted to say is I'm new to the board, so I didn't know that you were doing this. And so maybe maybe we could know next time
None of us
if
knew.
you're doing something like this. You know what I mean? Like kind of a heads up maybe for us, because you're asking us to vote $856,000 and $642, $856,000. So it's a lot of money. It's like, oh goodness. I guess I just wanted maybe more information. That's all, I guess, maybe. And I got some. I'm kind of impressed right now, but it's kind of moving forward. So it's a big number for me.
You know, that's one of the issues we run into as boards change. People who made decisions or people who were involved in even initiating a project move on, new people move in. So it's almost a matter of catching up. And I don't think it'd be a bad idea at all as part of our orientation to identify the big ticket items that are on the horizon. Something like that.
I just want to
But for
make
this
one
point,
go
last
ahead. Comment. Yeah, so I think I just want to provide clarification. I don't know that a presentation would be a requirement, but I think collectively we're saying more information to help us make a sound, informed decision. We want the best interests. We have the best interests of our children, at our heart. And so I think maybe some personal testimonies from the teachers, something brief that could be emailed to us and allow us the opportunity to review. I'm not opposed to it, but I would appreciate hearing from students, teachers that was a part of the pilot process. And I think that's easy for us to obtain. I mean, I may be making an assumption, but I think it would be pretty easy.
And one last comment as well.
Keisha?
Yeah, go ahead. Thank
Hit
you.
the floor. Mhm.
Thank you. With this being a 2-year pilot program, to your point, Marilyn, none of us knew that they were piloting this program. I'm not necessarily saying that we had to know that you were piloting this program, but bringing this up to us today, after you've been doing it for 2 years, and expecting us to give you an answer because you failed to give us this information sooner is unfair to the board. We have questions. This again is a curriculum that we likely won't look at for another possibly 5 or 6 years, maybe 10 years. And it's unfair to sit here at this board table and attempt to force this down our throat. The experts that are reviewing our curriculum, they are not only our teachers. We as a school say that where community comes together, we and all of our data says that our parents and their voice is very important to what we do, that their partnership in their child's education is very important. So hearing from our parents and our students and our teachers on a curriculum that they're using, that they've been piloting for 2 years, which I think is a good amount of time, like that's great. You know what I mean? It's the pilot's not the issue. The issue is that we're just now finding out about it. And again, you're trying to force this down our throat. As well, I ran on a platform that said I wanted more parent voice. I wanted teacher voice. I want student voice. And in that platform, that means I need to hear from them. So when we're talking about the teachers as being their experts, we know that they are experts and we appreciate them for their expertise, but they are not the only experts. Parents are also experts in their child's education, and hearing from them is very important, as well as students and teachers as well. So I want you to be clear about what I'm saying as far as with this issue. Thank you.
So again, I don't disagree that, and I want to make certain you understand, I'm not trying to force anything down anybody's throat. I understand that this is a surprise. It is my recommendation not to delay until June because I don't believe that materials will be available. I specifically spoke to and suggested that Julie would be prepared to present at our May meeting.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. What exactly is it at this point?
That we postpone it to June.
Not till June.
That's my motion. That's the motion.
Oh, your motion?
That is
postponed
the
till
motion
June?
that's on the table.
That's the
Okay, motion on the table is postpone this decision until June.
That we can get more information
All
in
in
May.
favor?
That's included in the motion, that we get more information. The information that we're waiting for should come in May about all these different ways.
Pardon me? The motion is to get more information and postpone the vote until June. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Aye isn't opposed.
Aye. Opposed. Definitely opposed.
Okay, this motion fails. Let's keep moving. Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead, roll call.
Ms. Hamilton?
What are we roll calling right now?
We're roll calling.
We're going to roll call the vote. Motion.
Right, so which one?
You said you
the
want to say
main one?
yes. Mhm.
The original one?
The yes, you want to say yes.
Nope, she's saying mine. Which one are we doing?
I apologize. I'm going to clarify. We are going to call for a roll call on the motion to approve your amendment, Ms.
Okay.
Hamilton, and that is because we were unable
No
to
problem.
discern a clear vote.
So for my motion to postpone it to June so that we can have a presentation in May that includes parent, student, and teacher voice, I am voting yes on that motion.
Yes. Ms. Hunt?
I'm not sure, because I feel like we need more information, but I would be satisfied with it being provided in May.
So right now, the motion is till June. The motion is to vote until June.
No to June, and I would like to make another motion.
So no. No.
No. Motion failed. Okay.
another
Is there another motion?
There's a third motion. I
Here we
would
go.
like to make a motion that we revisit item 22-23- on the curriculum 110 in May if we are provided with additional information from our expertise, our parents, our teachers, and the students that were a part of this piloted program.
Second.
Okay, the motion on the table is to postpone until June a final decision. I'm sorry, postpone until May a final decision that would include feedback from those who piloted the program, including parents, students, teachers who were involved since the pilot began.
So presentation and approval at the May meeting, correct?
Do you want a presentation or just the, from people?
Sure.
Okay.
Presentation and approval in May was what I heard.
Mhm.
And then if I am correct, that Marilyn, you seconded that? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just saw that. Other discussion? No? Oh, Derek.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess similar question as to June. I understand that this is coming to us kind of at an inopportune time for discussion. My concern is to be able to, and I think we're all interested in hearing more. We're all interested in trusting our instructors and our teachers. My question remains as to whether if we delay to the May 16th meeting for hearing more about the curriculum updates, if we would be able to get the materials before the start of the 23-24 school year.
I don't think we could answer that tonight. That's a conversation, as Ms. Baker indicated, that we would have to have with the provider. So in that regard, I can't answer that question.
A full month at the end of the year does make a huge difference when all the rest of the schools are ordering at the same time, that already have their curriculum in place. Okay, we have a motion, we have a support. Want to do a roll call? Or just aye and aye? Okay. You want a roll call? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Mitchell?
No.
Ms. Hunt?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Dobies?
No.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
And Mrs. Fitzgerald?
No.
There's
It's a tie. Libby's not here.
Motion fails in a tie.
The motion failed.
So it's not being postponed at all right now.
No, we have an original motion,
The original motion
which we had a motion and a second.
to order the books.
So please, could we call for a roll call vote on that motion?
This is back to the original. Go ahead and do it, and not wait 30 days. That one failed, the other one failed also.
Ms. Hamilton?
Because we are not including parent, student voice in this and teacher voice, my vote is no.
Mr. Dobies?
Yes.
Mrs. Acton Dowell?
No.
Ms. Hunt?
No.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
And Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Motion fails.
All right, we will bring this back to you. Yeah, we have no approved motion on this item.
You know, I do want to just make a comment that a month is not going to make a difference in the information we have. We have people who have been involved in this since the beginning that have gone through this and done this. Are we going to go another whole series and find something different, find different people to pilot it? And we don't have that kind of time. And additionally, I'm going to just reiterate this as much as I possibly can.
Point of order.
That is not the board's purview. Oh, Derek.
Oh, I was just, point of order, we've taken a vote and it's failed, and we have the rest of the stuff on the agenda here.
All right, so you'll see this one again next month.
Okay, we now are looking for support for 22, 23, 111, 6 to 12 social studies curriculum. Marcus?
Again, just like the previous one, we have curriculum updates for social studies program to refresh the current outdated curriculum. The cost of the 612 curriculum is $365,596.97 to be funded as follows: $355,596.96 through ESSER 3 and $10,000 through the general fund in future fiscal years. That represents future fiscal year professional development for this curriculum, which falls outside of the grant period, which is why the general fund would pick up that cost. So at this time, we would recommend approval of the social studies curriculum as presented.
Actually, if I may, to save some of the consternation and challenges we had with our ELA curriculum, the superintendent would like to recommend that the board have an opportunity to review this material, ask questions of Jeremy Patterson, and have him provide you that information. For the exact same reason, I would like this back in May so that we have an opportunity to order it and have it available to us potentially by next fall. I do not know if the supplier will be able to get it to us if we wait, but that is a question I can't answer. But I recognize the concern of the Board of Education that you expressed on our ELA curriculum, and it would be the recommendation of the superintendent to try to alleviate that by saying, my motion would be to table this one until next month, and Jeremy Patterson will provide you questions, and then we would ask for a vote on this curriculum in May. So that's my recommendation. I guess I would still need somebody to table it, though.
Support.
Okay, who's going to make a motion that we also table this? Once again, I'm going to say that it's dangerous to do that if you want our kids well prepared. These have been vetted by the people who will use them, and it's not the board's business. Once again, I need a motion to table this until May. May. Who did you did the motion?
No, point of order. Derek made a motion to begin with.
I was just, point of order, I made a motion to approve of the curriculum as presented.
Okay, second? Is there a second on approving the curriculum as presented? Motion dies. New motion to wait until May to go through this again.
I make a motion to postpone this until May, provided information on what our expertise, the knowledge that they have around this curriculum, how it's in the best interest of our student population.
I second that.
All in favor? Is there more discussion on that? Is that it?
Yes, there's discussion on it. When we come back, social studies is super duper duper important to our children, being history. So when we come back and we have a presentation about the K through 5 ELA curriculum, I would like information on this one as well. You know, samples of what they're doing, teacher, parent, and student voice as well. I'd like to hear from them when we come to vote on this in May. And then I really, really, really want to see what this curriculum looks like, how it was vetted for cultural relevancy, specifically with it being history. Thank you.
Got a motion, got a second? Derek?
Yeah, same questions as before in terms of preparing us for the subsequent school year. Would a delay until May cause any harm to the curriculum implementation?
You know, I don't think we can answer that without talking to the the company itself. This particular curriculum is very new and deals with a lot of things that we haven't before.
Yeah.
And it's really important the kids have it in their hands when they start, and not start with some antiquated thing, and try to move forward when it comes in, if it comes in. Well, my feeling on it's not a secret.
I guess
it's ridiculous.
My I guess, follow up on this, and I'll say at the Finance and Facilities meeting, we talked about these expenditures, and I know that Trustee Brown was excited to see some of the curriculum development
Mhm.
around the African American history courses
Mhm.
that are proposed in here. And I think future work around bringing AP course, I think was discussed as well. Um, uh, Anyways, I'm not sure if we don't know procedurally, if we don't know the time frame around working with the contractors or the contractors for the books. If May will be too late, then maybe it's more fitting to lay something on the table so that if we need to have a special meeting, we can remove it from the table and order the books to make sure that they arrive in time, even if that means, 2 weeks.
So
If we postpone it to a date certain, then we have
if
to.
it pleases the board, what I would do is I will talk to both of these vendors tomorrow, try to make certain I can have that information. And if it is timely, I will call a special meeting specifically to address both, the conversations that Ms. Hamilton is requesting with regards to a dive into the curriculum. And in the meantime, Ms. Hamilton, Mr. Patterson, and Ms. Baker can provide you with the curriculum so that you can review it. But we'll have a presentation prior to asking you to vote. And if it's timely, or if May will work, it's up to you if you want me to call a special meeting. If May is going to be pushing it, then or if May, then I'll call a special meeting if we can't. Does that make sense?
If it's laid on the table, then May would be our next regular meeting.
Yeah.
But if we need to have a special meeting, it allows us.
So if it pleases the board, I'll get you information tomorrow and the next day.
Great.
And if we need a special meeting, I'll let you know that we need a special meeting and we'll post it and call that meeting. Is that fair?
And I look forward to that information from them. Thank you.
So that's for two items, item 22-23-110 and 22-23-111. But I think right now we're in the middle of a motion, so we need a vote to table this, I think was the motion and the second. So
Table this to May, and if we find out that there is a problem, time-wise, we'll have a meeting to discuss it, a special meeting.
Madam President, if Trustee or Vice President Hunt would remove the motion to table to, I think there's a motion on the table to postpone it.
to table it.
On the table to table.
The motion right now is to table it until May. So again, I can call a special meeting and we could take that up again. Am I
I thought the motion was to postpone it to the May 19th.
I think it was to table this entire issue until May 19th. You want to remove that motion and simply motion, and I guess you're gonna have to walk me through what you would like, because I think what we can do is, she's requesting not to vote until May, and I think what we can do is, if needed, if that's not gonna work, I'll call a special meeting and we'll present the information requested. And in the meantime, I would ask the board to ask as many questions of Jeremy and Julie as possible. But that would be the goal. But Derek,
Okay.
if you prefer to have it worded some other way, I'm more than.
Robert's Rules of Order, and maybe I misheard the motion. If we are laying something on the table, we're just saying that we're not going to take action on it right now and we can pick it up at any time. If we make a motion to postpone it to a date certain, we're all agreeing that we're going to talk about it on that certain date. So I guess just a clarification on what the motion is.
Absolutely. So Ms. Hunt, I think Mr. Dobies is asking that you amend your motion so that it reflects that we'll
At the
table
next
it
meeting.
until a later date.
Just table it.
I'll table that. I'll make a motion to table it, yes. And then too, just to comment to what you said, Jeff, about contacting the individuals. I think this would be a transparent moment for us as a district, just to, just say, the board was not provided this information in a timely manner. This is considered an extenuating circumstance, which this is in our pattern, this is in our routine. We're not always asking for an extension or for grace to be extended. So I think this is an isolated situation where we be upfront, forthcoming with where we are and the challenges that we've faced at this governance table. And then I think that we may be like assuming what their response is, and we haven't given that honest effort to let them know where we stand as a board.
So to be clear, you are correct, Ms. Hunt. Our pattern is to bring an item forward for discussion in 1 month and action the following month. So we are out of our norm in this regard. Again, the district's not intentionally trying to do this. This is simply an expedience based on timeliness for the curriculum. But we certainly have no issues with conducting the conversation at the behest of the board. So I think where we stand right now, and again, I'm just trying to keep this, is we have a motion to table this to a later date, and I think we're just looking for a second.
Second.
All right. So motion and a second.
I had one more comment.
Well, it's your discussion.
This is the way, I've been a curriculum director for 12 years for a whole district. This is not how it's done. And if we're going to pick at social studies, if we're going to pick at reading, does that mean that every single adoption of a textbook is going to go through the board? Because if that's what you're looking at, I really want you to talk to MASB. That is not our business. And you start playing with the high school teachers' chemistry books or their economics things. We are not the experts. They are the experts. So I'm just telling you ahead of time.
Point of order.
Yeah.
A motion to table, because if we're following Robert's rules, isn't debatable. So we can just take a vote on whether we want to
vote on that. Yep.
table it or not table it.
Yep. You want to do a roll call or just a yay, no? Let's do roll call.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes to table.
Mr. Dobies?
Yes to table.
Yes to
Second.
table.
Ms. Hunt?
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
Mitchell? And Mrs. Fitzgerald?
No. Okay, now we're going to the literacy quote. That's an action item. Okay, 22, 23, 112. Marcus, GCM summer literacy quote.
JPS will be providing take-home reading materials to help prevent summer learning loss. The cost for the curriculum is $46,219 for purchases at Northeast and Cascade Elementary Schools. Other buildings are also receiving these materials. However, the amount of the purchases doesn't meet the threshold for board approval, is why it's not included in this dollar amount. The purchase, again, will be made through Title I funding. This was discussed as well at the April Finance Facility Committee meeting. So at this time, we would recommend approval of the quote from TCM in the amount of $46,219 for those two buildings.
Move approval, Madam President.
Support.
What other schools are getting them?
I believe all of the elementary schools, no,
Everybody
most of them.
Everybody but Dibble, you said?
These were materials that they chose to use their Title I funds for. And the only school that didn't chose to do that was Dibble.
More questions for you. Have we, so this is new to the board as well, right? We didn't see this before, correct? This year? Okay.
We ordered these last year.
Okay. Did we get a presentation last year on what comes in it? Do you all have that information available where we could know what comes in the books? Did you, so I don't want to overflow you with questions. I'll let you answer some of them.
There is a workbook that comes with it that has materials to help them get ready for the next grade. There are several books that they can read over the summer, and there are materials to help parents know how to help their child with those materials over the summer. And we sent them home with students who are not low enough to qualify for the summer school. So it's something to help them avoid the summer slide, but also prepare for the next grade level.
Thank you. I'm all for this, just so you know. Do we measure these for cultural relevancy?
No, but we didn't notice that there was any cultural bias in them. It wasn't noted by anybody. So, or complained about by parents. We saw that there was good literature in these that that it seemed to appeal to a wide group of kids, and we saw good titles where students saw themselves in the books as well. So,
I am concerned that if it wasn't measured for cultural relevancy, whether or not it's actually culturally relevant, because it is important to measure for that. So next time we have this come forward, I would like for us to make sure that we're measuring for cultural relevancy. You know, if possible, there might be something that's more culturally relevant or that's actually culturally relevant. I believe that we should measure for that so that we can know. Do we get, it sounds like we use these each year?
this is our second year. We were relieved to find something that was such a nice, something that was so nice to be able to provide parents and students with over the summer.
And you said the feedback that we've gotten has been?
Yeah, what we've heard are, and it's anecdotal, that, you know, I don't think any student likes to do work over the summer, but for parents, you know, that it's positive that we've given them something that they can work with their students on that is very parent friendly. So
thank you. So just in the future, Jeff or whoever needs to know, I do like the idea of us measuring and making sure that we're assessing the you know, sufficiency or the I'm drawing a blank on the correct word, but that it's actually doing what the parents are able to, you know, work with it well, the students are liking it, that it's actually doing what we want it to do. I like the idea of getting those measurements. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote. Michelle? You think? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. The CAA JPS room rental agreement. Marcus?
Every year, the district contracts with Community Action Agency for classroom space for their Head Start and Great Start Readiness program. So we've prepared the contract for 23-24 school year, which will not exceed $66,675. This has been reviewed and signed off on by Community Action Agency. So at this time, we are recommending approval of this room rental agreement as presented.
Move approval for discussion.
Okay, go ahead, guys. What are your thoughts on this room rental agreement?
Is this price different than the previous years?
It is different. We are increasing the rates by 5%, which is like $400 a room. It's very minimal, but something to help with the rising costs of utilities and custodial services and things like that. We have not raised our rates in a few years now, but just with everything going on this year, we did need to look at things a little differently. But we try to keep it very minimal.
So it says it will not exceed 66,000. What does the contract read like exactly? What's the exact amount?
So there's different rates depending if the rooms are classified as Head Start or GSRP, and that will be based on their enrollment, which obviously they won't have yet at this time. So that would be a max amount that they would pay us based on the configuration of the rooms.
Any other discussion? Any other thoughts? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
We have one abstention. I am abstaining.
Thank you.
And Ms. Hamilton, just for clarification purposes,
Because
you're
I work
abstaining
there.
because you're an employee
I
of
work there,
Community
yep.
Action Agency. That just for the record, I know the answer,
Well, it
but I
makes a
want to make sure.
difference. That's a good thing.
No problem.
Okay, Jackson High School painting project. 22-23-114. Marcus?
All right, so last year we went through and refreshed and painted middle school at Parkside as we worked through the bond project. So this year we are looking at refreshing Jackson High, and we're going to take a floor by floor approach to better plan things out. We've reached out to Ledco Painting, who has been the painter involved in many projects at the high school, including the Natatorium Welcome Center, the media center here, and some of the other areas in the building. So we are looking to paint, again, just the third floor at the high school this summer at a cost of $68,580, which we'll be able to split over both this year and next year as it is summer work. So some of that will count towards June 30th, which is the end of our fiscal year, and the remainder that's painted after June 30th will be on next year's budget. So it'll be a smaller budget hit to each year to make it a little more palatable. And then going forward, we'll look to do the rest of the building floor by floor.
Move approval.
I'll support.
I was just kind of curious if you got any other bids.
We did receive another bid from another painting company. The name escapes me at the moment. Overall, for the entire building, their price was about $80,000 higher, I want to say.
More discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, the same? Passes, thank you. Okay, now we're going to board norms. We've been through this. Wait a minute, hold on. The board norms, 22-23-115. I call for a motion to accept. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
Did we get a second?
Mhm.
Apologize.
No.
If we have no second. then
Oh,
we'll-
no second, motion dies. Okay, we have no board norms. Old business. We have an old business, nothing. Okay, let's do board comments now. Board comments? Marilyn, you had something, didn't you, you were going to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
You don't
Well,
think so?
I was just going to make a comment. But
Oh,
I
okay.
think Keisha went first, so I was like,
Oh, Keisha?
You go ahead, Marilyn.
Okay.
I'll go after you. Thank
So I loved Reading Month, and I was invited to go to Hunt for a third grade classroom. And I'm not sure how to say her last name, Jordan Fobbe, Fobbe. Yes? Oh my gosh. Her classroom was so well behaved. And in the middle of my reading, we had a tornado drill. So I got to go with the kids to the bathroom. It was hysterical, but she's an amazing teacher, and the kids were just delightful. So when I went back into the hall, it was at Hunt, I started talking to a couple of gals in the hall, and this woman who's a teacher said, "I know you." And we were trying to go around and around why we knew each other, and it was so sweet because it was her first year of teaching at Hunt in 2015. I was her parapro. And we just laughed and laughed and hugged. It was Aisha Parker. And it was so funny. And this is really funny because she said, I said, how did you recognize me? And she goes, "It was your voice." So I just had such a good time with the kids. And they were, actually, everyone was really well behaved. The whole school was clean and beautiful. And so I just really appreciated that opportunity. So thank you.
Anybody else? Keisha?
So yes, some board comments. So I am concerned about the superintendent's goals being introduced so late in the year, how that's going to impact his ability to perform them well, and then how this is going to impact or affect rather his evaluation. His superintendent goals are generally introduced in January, and we should have had these a lot sooner. you know, because I do believe this is going to impact his evaluation. So that's a concern. Our leadership on this board, leaders, you know, should be examples of what they expect those who they think they're leading, what they think, you know, those people who they're leading, what they expect them to do. Leaders should reflect what they expect people who they think they're leading. Their behavior should be of such that those looking on would want to emulate it. We don't have that right now, and so I'm hopeful that maybe we'll get that at some point. MASB says in reference to the role of a board, this is very specific because you can look at masb.com.org. Rather, give me a minute, I got to get you the correct MASB. I'll get it in a minute. But anyways, though, MASB says to the role of the board, you can Google MASB role of the board, and this will come up for you. It is to approve recommended curriculum and texts based on standards, goals, and policies established by the board. Review and evaluate curriculum as it relates to student assessment results. So our board president says over and over that this is not in our purview, and she says that we should talk to MASB, and MASB says on their website, under the role of a school board member, that part of our role is to review and to evaluate curriculum as it relates to the student assessment. As well, we are to adopt policies governing school community relations, advocates for the public school system, and remain responsive to community ideas and needs. It's difficult to remain responsive to community needs and ideas if we're not hearing from them, which is why it's incredibly important and why you constantly hear me talk about parent, student, and teacher voice. This is why I'm constantly saying it, because part of our job as board members, we are not the experts in everything. Our expertise comes from listening to those who are in the community. Our expertise comes from those who are experiencing these things. Our teachers, yes, they are experts, but they're not the only experts. And it's part of our job as board members to ask these hard questions, to be insistent that we are hearing from our community per MASB. That's what MASB tells us. There are other things that MASB says that a school board member should be doing, but I thought it was very important that we hear directly from what MASB says regarding how a board member is supposed to review and evaluate curriculum, which is impossible to do when we're not seeing it. Otherwise, I'm very grateful for our community continuing to show up as often as they do at each meeting. You know, we want our school district to actually be one where community is coming together. You know, all the voices and things that we get to hear each month, you know, at our board public comment time, it's important for us to hear your voices. Even those voices that are in opposition to different ideas that sit at this table, it's still important to hear your voice. So thank you all for continuing to show up and for continuing to lend your voice, your ideas, those things that are important to you to this table so that we can make the best decisions for this community. Thank you.
I just wanted to say the student count number is very exciting and encouraging. So that was great to see, and I appreciated the reports from the cabinet and all of their work.
You took my student count thing. Okay. But I do want you to reiterate that we are one of the very few districts in the county that's growing, and it's growing for a lot of reasons. And it has to do with the quality of our employees, the quality of the people who are making the decisions, and I really appreciate the continued support when you come in and are willing to share your voice with us. And that's it. Any more comment? April 17th through the 28th, which is right now, we're in period we're in. Board self-assessment. Watch for email from Michelle with instructions. Has everyone received their board assessment? Okay, all right. May 16th, regular board meeting in the Media Center, 5:30. Now this week is one heck of a week. It's graduation week and there's so many activities and I would love to have as many people there as possible to support our graduates, support our teachers. Graduation is a big deal. Some of our kids have had a lot of hurdles to cross, and they did. And the teachers are there to acknowledge their hard work in the classroom, the kids' hard work, I mean, in the classroom. May 24th is Baccalaureate. Every year that's held at a different church in the area. This year it's Kingdom Life Ministries. May 25th is Honors Night in the auditorium. And that honors the kids from 9th grade through 12th grade, different levels of the honors, like the first year pin and the last year dictionary, whatever it is. They have a specific award for each year that they've been involved in honors. Then the 26th, Pathways, South Central commencement, Withington Stadium, 1 o'clock. May 26th, Jackson High commencement, Withington Stadium, 6 o'clock. June 6th is the JPS retirement dinner. That's at Cascades Manor at 5:30. We have quite a few retirees this year. So make sure if you want to go to that you're able to put that on your calendar. Anything else I haven't put on here for calendar? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve, a motion.
Move to adjourn, Madam President.
Adjournment.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh. Okay.